And a happy Tuesday evening to all you fine people out there on the internets. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I am your host, Benjamin Kennedy. I do appreciate you taking a few minutes of your day to come talk to us. Tonight, we are going to talk about the St. Louis Blues and dive into their season preview. One of the more curious teams, I think, in the league this year, and looking forward to getting after it here. Later on tonight, I do have my fantasy football draft. Of course, always fun when football comes back on as well. I've done literally zero preparation. I'm going to make all the excuses in the world, like just take my money, guys. If any of my fellow fantasy football people in my league are listening, yeah, I'm not expecting much out of myself tonight. So I'm going to try to get this done. Maybe look at my roster a little bit, and we'll go from there, right? But we'll dive in here to the Blues starting with their bench, Drew Bannister. Of course, we all know he was the interim head coach a year ago or halfway through the year once Greg Berube was let go. Coached 54 games for the club, had a 30-19-5 record, good for 602 winning percentage. That change of voice did provide some juice for the team. Um, and before that, of course, he had spent 3 seasons down at the American League level in Springfield with the Thunderbirds, where he coached in 170 games. 93, 58, 19 record, of course, the former Portland Pirates. So this will be his first full season as a NHL head coach. He has, the whole off season. Now he's got his, preseason to get ramped up. So going to be really curious to see how this goes for him. He did bring back Claude Julien as an assistant coach, so old friend. Claude be back behind the bench, so that will be fun to see. So yeah, we'll see how it goes for Bannister. Salary cap wise, they do have a little bit left over, 2.22 million under the cap, according to Puckpedia. They do have a full active roster at this point, so a little wiggle room as needs come up. When you look at the first round in the draft this season, they did have number 16 overall pick. They took Adam Yarasek, 18-year-old defenseman out of Czechia. So I'll be curious to see how he develops and grows. Defense is, I think, definitely a position of need for this club moving forward. When we go back to last season and look at 23-24, now they finished 43, 33, and 6, 92 points. Good for fifth in the Central, and they missed the playoffs. 91 points got you in the East, and 92 points could not get you in the West. So they were right there on the cusp of it. They were 6 points behind Vegas for that final wildcard spot. So you're just talking, really 3 games, and um, really kind of battled right to the end. Team stats, you start to look into the numbers and can kind of see why they missed, though. Now, their goals for last year, they were 24th in the league at a 2.84 goals per game, and they were 15th in goals against at 3.02. Were a minus 14 in goal differential, and that goals against they were actually tied with both Nashville and Pittsburgh. So really had a hard time, scoring goals. Their power play was also 24th, so this kind of follows. They were at 18% on their power play, so 24th in goals for, 24th in the power play. Really having a hard time of it. Their PK was at 79.1%, 18th in the league, and then their face-off percentage they were at 49.9, so right around 50%. Good for 18th in the league. Course skaters, center Jordan Kyrou played 82 games, had 31 goals, 36 assists for 67 points. Center Robert Thomas, 82 games played for him, 26 goals, 60 assists for 86 points. Forward Pavel Buchnevich played in 80 games, 27 goals, 36 assists for 63 points. Braden Shen, forward, played in 82 games as well. Had a 46 points, 20 goals, and 26 assists there for him. And the young forward, Jake Neighbors, played in 77 games, had 27 goals, 11 assists for 38 points. Definitely, I think an emerging player there. Had one of I think his best year so far as a pro. Goaltending was an interesting story for the group last year as well. Jordan Bennington, when he wasn't fighting people or trying to fight people, he did play in 57 games, had a 28, 21-5 record, 2.84 goals against average, and a 913 save percentage. Now, this was a reversal of about a 2 year slide in his numbers and really his best performance since the 2020 2021 season. So, good on him there. Joel Horfer was the backup, played in 30 games, had a 15-12-1 record, 2.65 goals against, and a 914 save percentage for himself. So, really, when you look at those numbers, fairly similar across the board. I don't really feel like the team had to play differently in front of either one of these guys. Didn't really miss a beat depending on who was in net. And I do believe this should be a fairly solid tandem going into next season. Key additions: they bring in Alexander Texier forward. They bring in Matthew Joseph, another forward. I think they actually have both Joseph brothers on the team this year. Faska comes up forward from Dallas along with defenseman Ryan Suter. And then, of course, just recently picking up forward Dylan Holloway and defenseman Philip Broberg, both from Edmonton, both part of that RFA situation there between St. Louis and Edmonton, where the Oilers just chose not to match the offers, and off they go to St. Louis. Two fairly good gets, I think, for the Blues. I think both players are going to play and play significant minutes. And I just love what the GM had to say about this. People say, "Well, yeah, was it? Do you think using that RFA situation was that kind of, I don't know if the word was unethical or, but he was questioned about it. And he's like, listen, show me where, a GM shouldn't use this. It's a tool out there to try to make your team better. And if my mother was running the Edmonton, I would do the same thing. So good on him. His job is to take care of his team, take care of his fans, and it worked out for him. So I don't begrudge him at all. Would I be pissed if I was an Edmonton fan? Probably a little bit. But again, that's how the RFA thing works. You have the chance to match it. They chose not to. Yes, they had some salary cap situations to deal with. We understand that, but this is how it goes. Key departures. They do lose Kevin Hayes off to Pittsburgh. Veteran centerman there, and then both Jacob Rana and Sammy Blaze. I don't believe there's a runway for them to come back to St. Louis. They're both unsigned currently. Uh, Not really sure where they're going to end up, but most likely won't be there with the Blues. So, before I dove into the roster and the numbers, I was kind of struggling to know where to place this team this season. Now that I've looked at the roster and looked at the numbers, I'm struggling even more to get really a great read and expectations on what this club's going to be this year. There are areas of the team that I like. I feel like they should really have two decent scoring lines. When you look up and down their roster, I can count 6 to 7 players that should score 20 plus goals this season. Now, that's again potential, right? Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Because, of course, scoring was an issue for this club last season. I don't know if it was just line combinations or what, but they just were not getting enough. So, what is this forward depth going to look like this year? We know, the Kairos and the Thomases and the Puchneviches, those guys are going to be out there, be active, but who else is going to step up for this team? Can someone like a Jake Neighbors step up and take that next step after, what was, I think a really good year for him? You just brought in Dylan Holloway. He's going to get a chance to play probably second or third line minutes. What can he do now in a more elevated role? I think that's going to be really important for the team. Now, according to MoneyPuck.com, the Blues were 24th in shots on goal with 2,370 shots. So that follows with their goals for average and their power play, both at 24th in the league, 24th in shots on goal as well. The problem is they gave up the eighth most shots on goal at 2,637. Those are numbers that are just going to need to change if you want to be playing hockey in May and June. Now, obvious point coming, obvious point alert here, guys. But the more time you keep the puck in your ozone, the less time you're spending, defending, and you can take some pressure off your goaltending as well. Finding some early season offensive rhythm is going to be really important for this team. It just is. We talk about U.S. Thanksgiving all the time. That if you're in that playoff picture come U.S. Thanksgiving, the really good chance you're going to be in the playoffs. I think that's their first push. These first few weeks, find some offensive rhythm, get those line combinations correct, and get out of that issue of being kind of bottom third of the league or bottom fourth of the league in scoring. Defensively, it was a bit of a struggle overall for the team last year. Goaltending did seem to kind of keep them fighting in some games. Adding veterans like Suter may help, and the surprise addition of Broberg there from Edmonton could really boost this blue line. Lots of question marks around Torrey Krug. We know he's injured right now. There's no guarantee he's going to see the ice this season. Um, they will continue to be led by veterans Colton Parenko and Nick Leddy. But Blues fans, do you think they did enough on their blue line? Like, what are your thoughts on this defense? I'd be really curious to hear from any St. Louis fans out there. Please feel free to leave those comments down below. Um, Goaltending should be a strength this season. Bennington had a nice bounce back year for himself. All the narrative going into last season, guys, was how his numbers have been kind of consistently dropping over the last few seasons, and he was able to change that tide. Now, can he do it again? Can he repeat that? Hofer has emerged as a solid number two. I think he should provide some sound consistency for this team and give Bennington a chance to rest maybe a little bit more. Of course, we know this is the hardest position to predict year in and year out, so it is something worth keeping an eye on as we move forward. If Bennington is more the goalie of last year and less the goalie he was the prior 2 seasons, I think the team should hang around that wildcard conversation for much of the season. But this is a stacked Central Division, guys. We know what you have in Dallas. We know what you have in Colorado. We know what Nashville just went out and did. Winnipeg's they're not wanting to go away, and yeah, Minnesota they're dealing with kind of cap hell right now, but they've got players too. Um, so when you think about all that, you just think the best chance for this team really would be to try to get a wild card spot. But where's that going to come from? Are they taking it from Winnipeg in division? Are they going to take it from maybe the LA Kings that might be a little vulnerable this year? Or maybe Vegas, who, July 1st obviously did not treat them very well. Maybe they're vulnerable out west. Truth be told, guys, I really don't have much of an idea right now, but I do expect the Blues to be right around that playoff hunt, much like they were a year ago. Got them hanging out here in Fangorn Forest. They are in the woods, hanging out with the Ents. Not really sure if they're going to make their way out of the woods or, um, if they're just going to, get stuck and get eaten by the goblins. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out what the season brings. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. As always, that's what we have for St. Louis. So please leave those comments down below. I would be curious to hear from many Blues fans what your thoughts are on the season. Are they a playoff team? Are they not a playoff team? Do you like what they've done with the defense? Do you wish they had, gone out and done more? There was a bunch of big defensive guys out there this year in the free agent market. They didn't really land any of those boys. But, anyways, guys, again, thank you for watching. If you do like what you're hearing, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below to appreciate that. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.